Thank you for joining me on 13 Plus. I'm Cali Lichter, and this is On the Docket, a weekly recap of crime in court in and around the state of Michigan. When a 15-year-old boy was shot and killed while he was playing outside with his friends in the summer of 2024, the community rallied to help find his killer. 11 months later, law enforcement believes they have him in custody. All of that and more is On the Docket. It was a warm Sunday night on June 2nd, 2024, when 15-year-old Amillier Penn was playing football with his friends on Umatilla Street Southeast. Amillier was shot and killed by an unknown suspect who is now named to be 17-year-old Cartier Pascal. Amillier was unarmed. As police investigated to find those responsible, Amillier's family reflected on the person he was just days after the fatal shooting.
It's going to be hours or days to talk how sweet and how nice kid he was. As you all seen the picture, and his smile brightened up the room.
15-year-old Amillier Penn was playing football with friends when Grand Rapids police were called to a shooting in the 400 block of Umatilla Street. When they arrived, they found Amillier had been killed.
He was a hard worker. He was saving up for driver's training. He was starting to learn how to drive, so it's just really sad to not see him finish that through.
Two of his close cousins spoke with us on behalf of his mother. They say they could talk for hours about his love for his family, his love for basketball, and his excitement for the next chapter of his life.
I saw him like a week before he passed, and I never would have guessed that that was going to be the last time that I was going to see my cousin. Like, I would have given him a bigger hug.
His mother's side of the family, coming from Albania, they tell me he made up a large part of their small yet tight-knit family in the U.S.
My auntie, very old age, and my uncle, very old age, and they loved Amillier. That's the only grandson, and that's the only son for the mother. I'm in here for to live American dream, and we love this country and work so hard. And then this happened, it just break our heart.
Now they want those responsible to come forward and realize they have taken an innocent life.
If you're watching this, turn yourself in, make things easy for those who are involved, and please don't hurt anybody else. We don't want nobody else to get hurt. If you know anything, please say something. Because nobody deserves to be killed, and especially the way that he was killed. And that got to stop.
As the summer turned into fall with no suspect formally in custody, the reward for information on Amillier's death increased to $10,000. An empty lot on Umatilla Street, a memorial was set up for Amillier, where his father, Corey Penn, would visit often.
It hurts. It hurts to have to do this.
This empty lot that sits on Umatilla Street.
I shouldn't be doing this. My son should still be here.
Is a decorated yet painful reminder of the life of Amillier Penn. His father, Corey Penn, started this memorial by marking the place his child was found dead back in June with this white picket fence.
I can't really describe how it feels to visit a memorial and have to maintain it for your 15-year-old child that was murdered.
He says he comes often to visit, and he's not alone.
For every one of these lights that someone donated or brought, anything that's over here, bears, balloons, it just shows, it displays how much love people have.
It's a type of love that's encouraged him to grow and maintain his son's memorial.
For me, the idea was just to give my son his flowers.
With an arch signifying who he says his son was.
That's why I got the flowers, give him his flowers. Basketball, he loved basketball. Butterflies, we believe that our son is still here in spirit.
So far, Penn says his son's case remains unsolved as no arrests have been made. But instead of giving into sadness and fear,
it's therapy for me as well to, remember all the good times and things like that.
Penn says he remains positive by growing this memorial.
Really, man.
talking positively about his son's life
He could light up the whole room.
and relying on his faith that one day his son's killer will be found.
Justice. That's what tomorrow looks like, because that's where my mind is set on, is tomorrow's going to be the day. And if it's not tomorrow, then it'll be the next day.
A billboard was even put up near Division and Hall in February 2025, months after Amillier died, with the community still searching for answers. The billboard reads, "Do you know who murdered me?" alongside a large picture of Amillier. In April 2025, a new investigation discovery series, All Access PD Grand Rapids, follows the Grand Rapids Police Department during the summer of 2024. The first episode was titled Fight Club, all about Amillier, and for the first time had GRPD confirming they believe they know who killed him.
Corey Penn, mourning his son, Amillier Penn, is featured in the new trailer of the investigation discovery show All Access PD Grand Rapids. He says his son's story will be featured starting April 8th.
They're going to see a family crying out for justice, crying out for our child. They're going to get a story. They're going to get Amillier's story.
15-year-old Amillier was shot and killed playing football with friends on the southeast side of Grand Rapids. So far, nobody has been charged in his murder.
This will bring more attention. We're just hoping that it brings results. We're hoping to bring answers. You know, we're still standing on faith, and we still believing that as time progresses, someone with answers will come forth.
After sitting down with the film crew, Penn says he called it a positive experience to draw more attention to his son's case. Executive producer Gary Sherman says that was their goal for this show.
We really are very, very picky about who we put out there on the street. These are very sensitive people. They realize that they are meeting people on the worst day of their life, and they are very aware of that.
Filming all over Grand Rapids throughout the summer of 2024, Sherman says there were no restrictions on what they could or couldn't film.
That's what's different about this show. We show mistakes as well as what they do right. And nobody at GRPD tells us what we can or can't put in the show.
And as for what comes next, Sherman says he hopes to be back.
Fingers crossed, about to get an order for a second season. This police department is amazing. It's an amazing community.
GRPD named Cartier Pascal as the suspect, the person they believed killed Amillier. And a little over a month later, Pascal was formally charged with the murder.
We know we can't bring Millie back, but we can get answers for the family. We can get some healing for the family. And Millie's parents, Corey and Claudia, have been extremely patient through this process. They love their son very much. And we hope that helps with them, but we're announcing today that charges have been brought on 17-year-old Cartier Pascal. He will be facing open murder charges in this case. The detectives, like I said, it's been almost a year. Tony and the detectives helping him out have done fantastic professional work.
A lot went into the nearly year it took to charge a suspect in Amillier's death, with detectives spending countless hours investigating who shot him that Sunday night in June.
So we're here because of the break in the case this week, the formal charging of a suspect in the Amillier Penn case. And this has been going on for 11 months now. Amillier was killed last June, early June. How did that feel, having formal charges against someone?
It was a huge relief, a great sense of satisfaction, but this case was unique in that our primary suspect, Cartier Pascal, was already incarcerated on another very serious crime. So we knew where he was. We knew he wasn't going to be getting out of jail anytime soon. So there really wasn't a sense of urgency. And not that we didn't work diligently to try and get the results and we weren't working on the case. We by no stretch were allowing it to go stale. It was just, there was not a sense of urgency to apprehend him or get him in custody so that he would not reoffend or hurt anyone else.
There's a show out there about the police department, All Access PD, and the very first episode, Cartier Pascal is named in the episode, you know, saying person of interest suspect. Why name him in the show when he hasn't been formally charged?
Well, one thing that I'll point out is that show aired in March, was it? May? April? Okay, let me start over then. One thing that I'll note is that that show came out in April. They stopped recording that show in the beginning of September of 2024. So by the time that show had completed, wrapped, filming done, there was a solid, 6 months or more of investigation that Tony had worked on and put together. And of course, we stayed in contact with the producers of that show. So much had moved forward in that case. There was little concern that anything that would come of naming him would have a negative impact on the criminal case. It pretty much what was done, but as Tony pointed out, the urgency to wrap everything up certainly just wasn't there because the shooter was already incapacitated.
Carty had already been waived out of probate court into adult court on the other case, and all references to him were when we were referencing him in the other shooting.
So that's kind of...
And we did have some creative control or production control in that. So much
yes,
that
if there was something alarming to us that we thought that this was going to destroy everything, we could have contacted them. And I'm sure they would have cooperated, but it aired so much later and so much more of the investigation had taken place, it wasn't really a concern.
Most investigations, you don't have that. The suspect is out on the street, and you always have that fear that is he going to reoffend, or is she going to hurt someone else? This one, they were jailed. We knew right where they were. We knew it, and beyond that, I had the opportunity to listen to the jail calls, so I'm privy to all of the communications in and out of the jail.
Our office, the chief's office, was getting a lot of questions from the media, questions from the families, especially the extended family, and other people who just cared about this case, asking for, it's been 9 months, it's been 10 months, we're going on a year, what's going on? And I know that Tony is right down the hall working, nonstop. I would check in with him on a weekly basis, if not more, and he would just give me a laundry list of everything he was working on, just extended hours working on his days off, just doing so much that the public didn't see, even the family, who I know he was in close contact with Millie's parents. It's one of the challenges of our jobs, just to express to people that care about victims of crime that we are working. We can't talk necessarily about everything we're doing, and you're not going to see it. You'll see the finished product of it, but developing that trust and getting people to realize, we really are invested in justice for their family member. It's something that's important to us, but in this case, I saw it, like I said, anytime I saw Tony, we caught up on the case, and he put a tremendous amount of work into this, and that was a long haul.
Taking it back to last June now, when the shooting happened, it's not like Pascal stayed on the scene or anything. You show up and there's a kid with a bullet wound.
I think I probably beat you there, Tony, for that scene. So it was about 8 p.m. on June 2nd, and my initial reaction is, number one, it's a kid, so this is absolutely devastating to the community. It's a tragedy. A horrific event that we just lost a child, and he had been shot numerous times, so you knew that it wasn't other things we've seen. It wasn't self-inflicted. It wasn't accidental. This was a murder. And looking around the neighborhood then, as I was there very early on, and seeing dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of bystanders, my initial thought was, this won't take very long, because there's so many people out here. There must have been, it was a beautiful day. There must have been so many people to witness this that we're going to get information very quickly. We're going to get cooperation from the neighborhood, and this will be a quick turnaround. That was my initial thought.
I have 2 teenagers. Very difficult as a father to look down at a deceased teenager, and you have to remove the emotional side of this, and you have to put your investigator's hat on. And same, I'm looking around, and the investigative side of me, I'm looking at all these people, I'm looking at all the cell phones that are out, I'm looking for Ring doorbell cameras, and I'm just hoping out of the hundreds of people that are out there that we're going to have a cluster of them come forward and provide information. And then, I mean, from there, you're basically reverse engineering Millie's day. I mean, we know where he is now, unfortunately. Where was he an hour ago? Where was he 2 hours ago? What was he doing last night? How did we get to this position? And you do that by interviewing people. You also do that by going through his cell phone. Who was he in contact with last? Who has he talked to? So you just have to, you start with what you know, which is Millie is here, and unfortunately he's deceased. Who was he here with? How did he get here? What was going on yesterday? There has to be a reason that this happened.
When it comes to cases like this, it gained a lot of attention, especially within the city. And I came to Grand Rapids about a month after Amillier's death, but it was the first case that I heard of. What do you guys think of the impact that his death has had on the community?
I mean, 3 years later, to have a 15-year-old killed while playing football, and then seeing the struggle that we went through as a police department to get the city's cooperation, I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes to the reality of certainly what the police face in seeking justice, but also what I saw as a real challenge culturally with some of our young people in the city. We could talk about it for hours, but we're just coming on the heels of you just spent a week or two at the trial for one of our police officers. As police chief, I get so much cooperation from the citizens of Grand Rapids when there's an incident that there's concerns about police misconduct. And we talk all the time about police reform and holding the police accountable. And there can be a situation on the street where there's someone in conflict with a police officer, and I'll get a phone call the next day. I might get a dozen phone calls. I'll get cell phone videos, social media posts. Everyone will come out of the woodwork because everyone's pushing police reform. They want policing better, all the cooperation in the world. But then as a 15-year-old killed, and because of the culture he's living in, there's no cooperation. No one's coming forward. And so it's a difficult but serious conversation to have with people that really care about our city, and especially really care about our young people. We talk about police reform, talk about all sorts of different kinds of reform. We need to reform the culture that certainly Cartier Pascal was living in, that he thinks it's okay to shoot individuals, that he's spending time with people that won't come forward with that information. That's the real challenge. That's the real, when we talk about challenges in policing, too often we go for the low-hanging fruit. You ask any police officer, what do you think about excessive force? I am definitely opposed to excessive force. I want to do everything I can to reform the police, improve the police. Okay, now let's talk about the 40-plus young people down on the southeast side of town that have been killed since I've been here, and the challenges that we face, the cooperation from the culture. Families which won't talk to their kids and say, you're walking out the door. Why are you walking out the door with a gun in your waistband? We really need parents involved in these young people's lives so that people in any part of the city feel just as safe as kids in any other part of the city. And it's a difficult conversation to have, especially when you're talking about race. One very alarming statistic that I often cite, look at this time period. In 2023 and 2024, we had 37 murders during those 2 years. We're well over 50% Caucasian city. 0 Caucasian people were killed in that 2-year span. Every single one was a minority individual. So when you're talking about policing and you're talking about victims, you have to have those hard conversations about race. And there's so many issues that come up, socioeconomic issues. But in this case, what we really saw was a problem with the culture that Cartier at least was living in, that no one was coming forward. And no parent who cares about their child wants their child living in that culture where they can't send their kid out to play football in a park and think that they're going to be safe. They want their kid to be safe. So this case has brought about a lot of very difficult conversations, but important conversations for Grand Rapids to have.
With forensic technology and everything that we can do with mobile devices and all social media platforms and all the metadata that's out there, that's great. In the end, it's old-fashioned police work. It is a detective finding a witness, cultivating a relationship with them, and then a person coming forward to say, Your Honor, I saw this human being do that to this human being. And that's some of the best evidence you can get. You know, yes, we can have DNA and we can have fingerprints and we can have all the surveillance footage in the world, but having an eyewitness say, I saw this person do that, it's almost second to none.
And I know you talked about how you have 2 teenagers at home.
If they were sitting here, they would be reporting to you that I've turned much more militant and that I'm far too nosy and that I ask too many questions. But I think it makes me appreciate that my children are healthy and safe and making good quality choices. And it makes me terrified because you just see the randomness of violence. And I can't protect myself all the time. I certainly can't protect my son and my daughter. But it's really difficult to separate the two, from parent to investigator. It's astonishing to me, as this investigation, but several others as they unfold, that as you're going through a teenager's cell phone and you see the marijuana use, you see the alcohol use, then you see them in stolen cars, you see them bragging about being in stolen cars, making videos of running from the police, and hundreds of videos and pictures of them possessing, flourishing, brandishing firearms, and a variety of handguns to rifles to shotguns. And I'm taken aback how parents, grandparents, and parental figures are unaware of that this is happening. You know, oftentimes these videos are made in grandma's car, and no one is calling them out on this. No one is searching rooms and backpacks saying, why are you posting a video to YouTube of you celebrating gun violence and death? Why is this happening?
One of my past assignments was I worked in the investigation of child sex crimes. And just that time, even though my kids were babies at the time, as they've grown, it has made me so aware that we were a house that wouldn't have any sleepovers ever. And my kids are not, permitted to go on sleepovers just because you have that heightened awareness of where things can go wrong. Throw on that the murder investigations or the shooting investigations with everything that's on social media. So I am hyper-focused on what I see on my children's phones as well. And whether it's being a helicopter parent or being more involved, like I can tell you that there's a much lower chance that my children will be involved in that activity because of what we see and what we know the steps to take. But it is very alarming, even cases here that I've worked in Grand Rapids where young people have gotten killed, and to talk to some of the adults in their lives and hear literally that they knew that their child was walking out the door with a gun. And that was okay with them. They didn't think that, no, this has got to end here. They just said, well, that's what he does for whatever reason. And we're talking about teenagers that are certainly not legally permitted to carry that gun. So I think we need to, in this case, we lost Millie, 15 years old. Cartier is going to be spending probably decades. So there's an impact there. At 16 years old, decades behind bars. This has ruined the life of obviously 2 young people and impacted so many others. It's just too important for adults not to be more involved in these kids' lives.
And it's just senseless. It's completely senseless.
How do you try to regain control in a situation that really, rocks the community's resolve?
I think you just have to be steadfast, and when people are reaching out, you're validating what they're telling you. We got some tips that were just, I don't want to sound crazy, but there was zero validity to them, zero. And say, okay, thank you for calling, I appreciate your time. I just think being like that calm, steady force, and Claudia and Corey, they waited damn near a year for me to call them to say, I got a warrant, he's getting arrested, he's getting arraigned tomorrow. At any point, they could have said, this is nonsense. You're not doing your job. I don't have faith in you. I don't have faith in the GRPD. I'm calling Chief Winstrom and getting another detective assigned, but they didn't do that.
one of the great things about being the chief here is that when I go to a tragic circumstance like this and I talk to the family or I talk to the media and I say I'm confident that we're going to find answers for this family, I mean it. And that's because we have exceptional detectives here. I work with a lot of police agencies across the country, and if I was a victim of anything, if a person that I love was a victim of something, I would want the Grand Rapids Police Department detectives to look into it. We really have the absolute best, and I don't say it enough. People just don't realize the amount of work that we're doing behind the scenes, which we can't share, we can't talk about, and we want to let them know, like, we really care. Like, Millie's life really mattered to us, and we really care. We were emotionally invested in that case. We are very much looking to get some sort of answers for Corey, for Claudia, so that we know they'll never be completely healed, but sometimes answers help, and that's the least we can do. So we need to be the voice for those victims which can't speak for themselves.
There was definitely some frustration from the parent side. Claudia has been a rock through all of this. I feel privileged that I am in her inner circle because as a grieving mom, I mean, she has really tightened her circle, and she's not active on social media. If I call her, she answers right away. If I text her, she replies immediately. She has been fantastic to deal with, and you know, in the worst case scenario of any parent's life. And it's challenging because every time I'm reaching out to her, you know, we're discussing the worst day of her life. Corey with the same thing. Like, I'm not calling them and talking about we just had a great weekend or I just shot 2 under par on the golf course. Every single time I'm talking to them, we're discussing the worst day of their lives. And Cardi's name surfaced pretty early in this investigation. There was definitely some frustration from both mom and dad as to why Cardi was not immediately arrested. And it's not what we know, but it's what we can prove. And I mean, we had some animated conversations where they're voicing their frustrations and understandable critiques of the police, where they say every single person is telling me that this is the person that murdered my son. Why in the hell is he not in jail? And you know, I just kept saying, you have to trust the process. We're working on this and we're working on this. And then a week goes by and they don't hear from me, and I think they're feeling like, is Tony doing anything? Why is there no progress? So it's a very unique relationship and rapport that you have to establish with family members for them to trust you and understand that I'm thousands of hours into this investigation and that I am laser focused on bringing their son's killer to justice.
What did that feel like? Finally being able to stand up there, I guess, in a room full of media people saying, this is who we believe did it. We have the proof, and you know, he's going to go to court for it.
Feels like giving mom and dad a big hug again. You know, a hug only goes so far, but it's something, and it's giving the family something. It's giving them some answers. It's letting them know that we care, that we put so much work into justice for their son, that he was important to us, and you know, you can't make a situation like that really much better, but you can do everything you can to make sure that that family doesn't hurt more by putting that effort in. So it does feel good. Investigating murders is a very challenging thing, but you're doing something that a lot of people that are impacted by the murder can't do, and that's you're actually taking action which can make it just a little bit better for the family. So it is a rewarding feeling.
Claudia waited a very long time for the phone call. Corey waited a very long time. I wish I could have made that call to them within 72 hours, but that's not the dynamics of this investigation. I'm happy the way it turned out. I mean, we talk about closure. Like, this is not closure for them. You know, with Cardi's being charged, it doesn't bring Millie back. If anything, it highlights the worst night of their life, because now there are news interviews about it, and they're reliving things, and they're seeing pictures online, and people are reaching out to them, and I don't think that's all necessarily a bad thing, but again, it's just rehashing the worst day of their life. The justice, I know, it ends the frustration of people saying, why isn't the killer arrested? Why is the killer not in custody? And it was very difficult for them as the investigation was moving forward and before Cardi was in custody, as they're seeing him online, they're seeing him posting pictures, they're seeing him do what every other teenage boy is going to be out doing, and yet their son is dead. And it's that sense of unfairness. I mean, that was a big point of contention with them, and how frustrated they were that they continue hearing this name surface as the prime suspect, and yet he's not jailed.
How do you plan to connect this case with the community to that necessary evolution of policing culture and treating violence as a serious action?
Profound question.
Yeah, very good question.
I'll say this. With forensic technology and everything that we can do with mobile devices and all social media platforms and all the metadata that's out there, that's great. In the end, it's old-fashioned police work. It is a detective finding a witness, cultivating a relationship with them, and then a person coming forward to say, Your Honor, I saw this human being do that to this human being. And that's some of the best evidence you can get. Yes, we can have DNA and we can have fingerprints and we can have all the surveillance footage in the world, but having an eyewitness say, I saw this person do that, it's almost second to none.
One of the things that makes me very optimistic about the city is even like Millie's funeral, who a lot of police department members went to. There were a lot of community members there, including community leaders that are always speaking out. They want to do better, especially for the young people in our community. And I've interacted with them over the past year. Pastor Bishop officiated over his funeral, and he has served as a mentor to so many young men in his community, just helping guide them to find a way so that they don't end up on either side of this or involved in the criminal justice system. And that's just one of so many other adults who I've seen step up in the city and say, enough is enough. It's a terrible thing that it took a tragedy like this to wake some people up, but I've seen Pastor Gaddy's another example, who created this program for these young offenders who are going down this dangerous path, that he worked with the county prosecutor to have them diverted into this program called the Grand Rapids Alternative Correction Experience. And what it is, it just creates a mentorship for adults in the community that care about these young people to say, this is it. You got arrested for stealing a car? That's going to be it. That's going to be the last thing. You just made a bad decision. You may have made a whole string of bad decisions up until this point. It ends now, and we're going to find you a better way. And it takes adults like that to get involved. And this really was a sort of a wake-up call to, I think, a lot of the adults who care in our community that they've got to do a little bit more.
What do you hope comes from this arrest?
My hope is that witnesses understand at any scene that they're important to us. We will protect their identity for as long as we can, but that it's important as a stakeholder, as a community member, to stand up to this, to say, I won't tolerate this. I will not accept a 15-year-old child getting brutally murdered on my block. I won't do it. And whether you know the family or you know the other family, it was really frustrating in this investigation to have people be completely apathetic, where a number of people that I'm pretty sure have information, they would not provide their name, they wouldn't give me their phone number, and essentially slammed their door in our faces and said, there were enough people out there, go talk to them. Why should I get involved? Well, you should get involved because a teenager was brutally murdered on your block. That's why you should get involved.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to what sort of city do you want to live in? And if you want to live in the sort of city where a 15-year-old that you care about gets murdered and everyone just goes inside and closes their door and just forgets about it, that's on you. I don't want to live in that sort of city. I think our 15-year-olds deserve better. Everyone in this city deserves better. So if you want to live in a world where we absolutely reject that a 15-year-old should get murdered on a street in Grand Rapids, you need to be the person who comes out, talks to the police, talk to your children, talk to your neighbors, and just say, we're not going to stand for this as a community. That is exactly what will lead to a safer community. It's the apathetic people who just turn their back and are numb to a 15-year-old getting killed. There are other cities in the country that are just numb to young people getting killed, and they're going down a very dark path, and it's, what city do you want to live in?
Thanks for joining me on this episode of On the Docket on 13 Plus. We have new episodes releasing every week, taking you into the courtroom for the latest updates and deep dives on crime in and around West Michigan. In the meantime, we will bring you the latest on crime in court, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. And when breaking news affects you and your community, we stream live on 13 Plus with what you need to know right when you need to know. We'll see you next time with updates on what's on the docket.